I was in the middle of a meditation and this message was kind of taking up all the space in my mind. So I had a feeling that I wasn't exactly going to be able to fully lean into the experience until I had it delivered. So I kind of interrupted my meditation to get in front of the camera and deliver the message to the collective it's supposed to resonate with. I trust that this one will find you whenever you need to hear it, as so many messages have found me in recent times, and I've kind of been of the I've kind of been on the more consuming side of things. Apologies if I kind of stumbled on my words sometimes because English is not my first language. I've had to learn it. I'm still pretty much kind of fluent in English, but then again, I might look for my words at some point. So I thank you in advance for your patience. I don't want to yap. I don't want to get onto it and ramble for too long. So I'm going to get into the message. And I wanted to tell you that although your resilience is remarkable, make sure or do your best to try not to become a slave for your resilience. In the past few months, in the past few weeks, you've created a lot of space. You've had to detach from a lot of places, behaviors, people, illusions, habits. You've had to create this space probably from a place of exhaustion. Maybe you you've lost a job not necessarily because you weren't up for the job, but you kind of didn't really resonate with it. And elevation requires separation. And we've been programmed with this idea that it's kind of unhealthy to detach from, the stuff that up until the moment of detachment could have been a representation of stability, a representation of security, and most of the time, these places, these people, these behaviors, these habits, they've kind of kept you going. They've kind of represented some kind of safe haven to the version of yourself that you used to be. And you're kind of stepping into a time where it's not really been doing it for you anymore. It's not really been bringing you the satisfaction or the relief or all of the things that you thought were necessary to keep you afloat. And all these things are starting to look a lot more like burdens because you're not just meant to be kept afloat. You're in a position where you've stepped out of a lot of what kind of composed the picture of survival. And this exhaustion has led you to a point where you've switched from a survival based mindset to a growth based mindset. And you've understood that a growth based mindset required the death of several of your identities. So you have found yourself in a place where you've switched, like sometimes instantly, sometimes it took days, hours, it just took a realization, it just took a conversation. And whereas probably in the past, these conversations that would have triggered you, they would have sent you spiraling, they would have led you to be very hard on yourself, very, very violent, a lot of kind of picking up the stick to hit yourself up. And maybe this strategy has worked somewhat to kind of keep you going, keep you pushing. This is probably not going to be the same type of season you're stepping into. You know, all of the space you've needed to create because of that exhaustion, you're kind of learning to step into it, but you still have the old. Not entirely, because you've learned to kind of trust your intuition a bit more and kind of rely on it. And this relationship you've built with your higher self, with your faith, with God, whatever you want to call it, this relationship you've built has kind of allowed you to step into a place where you can let yourself be carried, you can let yourself be taken care of. You realize, okay, this is real. This can really be a cushion. This can really be a platform. This can really be a solid foundation, not just one of these, false starts you've had prior. And this is kind of the main exercise, the main lesson you're meant to get out of this season. This is not going to be another one of these false starts. This is going to be a place where you're finally going to be able to rest, finally going to be able to step into something that is feeling true, aligned, fulfilling. You've met a lot of different people in recent times, probably, and funnily enough, you're meeting people, but you're kind of feeling isolated at the same time because you're kind of this in between. Or maybe you've been associated with a lot of people who didn't necessarily see you for you, see you as an individual, people who didn't necessarily support your growth. So even though you've gracefully navigated through it all, and now you're a bit more, you're able to identify and recognize the patterns in people, and you're threading, but you're very protected at the same time. You're heavily protected, and you know this because people don't really, the triggers do not have the same effect. They don't necessarily make you question your own inner sense of security, You're not exactly shaken. You might have probably kind of, you might have found yourself in situation where people have kind of trying to get a one up on you, or trying to get close to you, to just to see what's up, just to see, is it really, or is she really about what she seems to be about. And since you're about what you're about because you've done the inner work, you've done, the shadow, the integration, the detachment, the forgiveness to yourself and to others. You've had to say sorry to a lot of people, and you've had to accept that a lot of people that hadn't done the work weren't necessarily going to say sorry to you, but that's not doesn't feel like a requirement anymore. It's like you kind of detach yourself from the need of being recognized by people who couldn't even recognize the truth of what they are. And you noticing that you expected something from people that they weren't in the position to give to you has led to the detachment and has created the space. But you might still find yourself in a position where your physical reality hasn't necessarily fully manifested everything that this change represents. And if you're in this position, you might be tempted to go back to the old programming, to go back to the idea that you need to do more, that you need to prove yourself, that you're not good enough, that you need to. And I'm here to tell you the space you've created is not for you to go back to this place of exhaustion because it's not going to work. You might have found yourself in a position where it feels like every day you feel like giving up. Every day you don't really get why. You feel like it's denial instead of no, it's not. It could there's a high chance, there's a high possibility that it's not about denial. It's just about you recognizing that you need to let yourself be put in a place where you can actually rest and receive. I've been in a position, I've been going very, very hard at the gym, very hard at the gym. And as much as I'm really happy with my performance and really thankful to discover and explore what my body's been able to do, I've been doing, workouts, really intense workouts, but it's also put me in a position where I've had to slow down because I've been trying to, really tone up my body a bit more. So I've gotten, on point with diet, with my program, with how much and what I eat. And now I find myself in a position where it's kind of you know, the last lap where in the last lap the different rules apply. You know, if you're in the last lap of the race, the intensity gets kind of that much higher. And maybe it's not gonna be about how much you do, but it's gonna be about how well you're able to let yourself trust in the work you've put in. You know, if you're you're basically the only one on the track. There's no competition at this point. It's not about what other people are doing. It's all about the internal. So you can only win the race. Knowing that you can only win the race, you have all the leeway in the world to pace yourself, to let yourself rest, to tell yourself, okay, we've done the work. We can just enjoy, bask in the space we've created. Because there's nobody to run away from, there's nobody to outperform, there's nobody to outshine. And it doesn't matter if people around you, you might have been in situation, even with a few family members have kind of shown their true colors and been kind of bothered by the work you've done and the results that are showing. But it was never, internally, that work was never, it did not come from a place of, oh, I'm trying to outshine everybody else. Most likely you've been in a position where you've tried that because you thought this is what you had to do in order to, step up to the plate and actually receive what you were meant to receive. And this is part of the things that have led you to this exhaustion. So the rules are going to be much different from now on. But to see that the rules are going to be different, to see that you can actually let yourself receive, you got to let yourself receive. And you're not going to be able to do this with the old programming of shame, of guilt, of always having to do more, of always having to be in a position where people could be very confrontational, and you're not on that type of energy anymore. You're just like, except if, you might find yourself in a position where you have to check a few people because you're not going about disrespect in the same way, but it's not coming from oh, I have to make sure I'm the man or I'm the girl, or it's coming from a place of, I've learned quite a few things about boundaries now. So if I let you think that you are in a position where you can cross my boundaries and remain unchecked, I gotta let you know. Sometimes you gotta let people know. But it's not coming from a place of trying to assert dominance. It's coming from a place of protecting your inner world and protecting and respecting the work you've put in. Even if people try to, discredit or make it seems like it and all that, like, we're not at the point where this registers anymore. So, yeah, I don't really know where I was going with all of it, but I got to get back to my meditation. I got to get back to resting. And I suggest you let yourself do the same. This is the message I had to kind of put out in the collective. I hope you got something from it. I'm exhausted. I may not look it, but I promise you, like, difficult nights. I still wanted to get this out and publish something that hopefully was going to be of some value to somebody else. I hope it resonates with you. If it doesn't, it is what it is. If it's meant for you, it'll find you. I trust it. And I send you so, so, so much support, so, so much blessings because we've been going through it, but we've done the work. And maybe it's time we let ourselves appreciate it. Take care, y'all. Be safe.